Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daingeon. On today's episode, we're going to put down some floor tile. This is part 2 of our fireplace refacing with some brand new tile. So stick around and watch us get this work done.
Nice to be in orbit.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below. On today's episode of the Daingeon, we are continuing with part 2. Today we're going to put down the tile in the hearth area using the X5 mortar compound that will go beneath these tiles. Once we get them properly spaced out, we'll let that dry and we will begin cutting the tile to place on the wall, where we will then use that same compound to stick them to the fireplace on the wall here. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for tuning in to the Daingeon, and let's get going. All right, we found that the best method for replacing the tile on the floor at the hearth of the fireplace was to measure 1,000,000 times and cut once, because we didn't have any opportunity for error. And you guys probably don't either if you're doing a similar project. So what I would recommend is you lay out some cardboard near the area where you're going to place your tile and you measure it exact. So what we did here is we placed the tile on the floor in front of where the cement board is currently. We laid out the tile how we wanted it to look on the floor, and then we marked it with tape and measured several times to make sure it would fit that hearth area. After the measurement, we cut all the pieces, test fit it, and put in our spacers. Now that the tile was ready to be placed, we went out into the garage and we mixed up the 8X X5 mortar compound. This stuff is super good. I highly recommend it. Just make sure you get it to like a peanut butter paste level, so that way when you spread it on the ground, it's not too loose and the tile sticks really quick. After we prepped the mortar to the perfect consistency, we went back over to the hearth of the fireplace and began spreading using the 3/8 trowel. This trowel size helps it sit just high enough so that way it's level with the wood floor. We took the pieces one by one and placed them starting in the bottom right corner. As we worked through the process, we added the spacers and made sure everything was flush and level to the ground. Keep in mind the mortar dries relatively quick, so you need to clean off the surface of the tiles when you're done. Try not to move them around or get any of the spacers dislodged, but make sure you get all the mortar compound off of the top of the tiles. After a few days of letting the mortar compound set and the tiles dry, we cleaned off the top surface and prepped the tiles for the grout. This step was relatively easy, but it is pretty messy, so make sure you tape off your area as well as put down some sheets so that way any of the excess grout that gets on the floor can be easily cleaned up. Finally, you begin mixing your grout. In this case, we used a superior product. This grout is a white grout that was recommended for this tile specifically. It is very fine, and you want to make sure, once again, that you get the consistency to that of a peanut butter. All right, once the grout is ready, you're going to want to walk over to your area and use a grout trowel, which is this black device that I'm using. You're going to push the grout into each grout line. Make sure you fill them well. Look for any bubbles. Smooth it out the best you can. Let it set in there for a little bit and then add grout where you need to. And then make sure when you're done and the grout is in all the grout lines, you go over it with a grout sponge and a little bit of water, and you clean off the grout to get rid of that grout haze. Now, it's easy to do this. Just make sure you take your time and don't lift any of the grout out of the grout lines. After that, you can begin your cleanup. Make sure you clean around your grout edges. Look for anything that got on the wood floor or whatever your other surfaces are, and make sure that you let it dry at least for 48 hours. For the next portion of this video, we're going to put the tile on the back of the wall. Before we did that, I made sure I covered up all of the fireplace and I primed the drywall that we put up so that way it has a nice smooth surface to adhere to. Now comes the more challenging portion of replacing tile on your fireplace, and that would be the chevron looking tile that we decided to use surrounding that fireplace. Now what we did was similar to how we started with the floor, where we measured each piece of tile, we drew lines to understand where we needed to cut that tile, and then we began placing them on the floor in the orientation they would be on the wall. It took a few times to make sure we measured exactly how we wanted to, but we came across only a few issues, replaced those small little tiles that might have broken, and we were ready to place this stuff on the wall. After that, we went out into the garage, we mixed up some more of the X5 mortar. Make sure that it is a very dry consistency, maybe even drier than peanut butter. That way you get these tiles to stick to the wall very easily. They did slide up and down, so we tried to start above. Just make sure that you keep that mortar nice and thick, and then hold those tiles into place for as long as you can, so that way they stick in place. It will work for you. Just make sure you spend some time on it, you're very patient, and you have some arm strength to hold them for quite some time. Otherwise, the tile turned out very well. We did the same thing that we did with the grout before. We added that peanut butter consistency of the grout after the tile dried for a couple of days, and then we smushed it into all the grout crevices. The grout lines looked really good at the end. The one thing that I would recommend is that you make sure your fireplace and everything is square. It was a little bit difficult to get some of the grout into certain areas, but once we lined it up, marked it with some cardboard and cleaned it off, we felt that the end result was very nice. So all in all, the fireplace came out exactly how we wanted it to. We had a good time doing it. I'm sorry this video took so long to put up, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video here on the Daingeon on how to replace the tile on your fireplace, part 2. Stick around for more videos. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below, and I'll talk to you guys again next time.